I really want to attain enlightenment. What should I do? They might ask me that question. Well, then I would say, stop trying to attain enlightenment. But if someone's just sitting there and not doing anything, for a long, long time, I might say, maybe you need to just kind of put a little more energy into your sitting. It's a very active sitting. You're very present and aware, and it's very dynamic. You have to have the intentionality to let go of your thinking process, being aware of just this moment as it's unfolding, just trying to accept reality as it is.
Let's just start from the beginning. What is the promise of Buddhism? What's the fundamental precept of it?
If we're born into this world as a human being, we're going to have some trouble. He actually called it suffering, but that's not a very good term, I think, for us in the Western world. Suffering is like a very graduated term. It can be intense suffering, losing someone who you dearly love, who died, or it could just be some kind of I'm just not feeling too good today, or just a little bit of unease, just not at ease. This suffering arises out of a notion of a permanently existing self. We might believe that we have a permanent existing thing called myself, separate from everything else. And what that creates is a craving for sensual pleasures, craving for this, craving for that, to meet our kind of individual self's need. Mm-hmm. And that's how it's created. And then how it ends is to try to monitor or control or even end that craving for something I want. We can stop that. And usually with Buddhism, there's a meditation aspect of it. And that means, at least in our tradition, we sit still on a cushion, and everything else we have to do to take care of ourselves. But a good portion of the day is sitting like in a meditation hall. We don't actually create the meditation experience as something special, something like
it's not like I'm going to go meditate here and then go.
Yeah. Oh, then I have to go over and wash dishes. Yeah. Oh, yuck. Something like that. So no, it's all connected. Everything we do in a retreat is meditation. So that's the aspect of mindfulness. Wherever we go, whatever we're doing, brushing our teeth, washing our face, all the activities of daily life, we just focus on being present with what we're doing. And if you're the cook, you're present with just cooking the food. If you're a dishwasher, you're present with washing the dishes. Meditation in the Zendo is quite important. However, we don't exonerate it to being something that all other activities are not important, because it's all connected. So
let me just summarize what I'm hearing from you. Buddhism's framework says that we perceive ourselves as separate selves, as a separate individual. Mm-hmm. And as a result, the perception of being a separate self will give rise to an experience of suffering, an experience of strife or struggle or some sort of discontent. We oftentimes will try to escape the suffering by pursuing pleasurable experiences. As a result, we get trapped in this cycle of suffering and pleasure seeking, suffering and pleasure seeking. And Buddhism provides a path for stopping that cycle and stepping out of that cycle by becoming present and becoming mindful in everything that we do and doing and living life in a meditative state. Mm-hmm. And
when Buddha went through a period of time where he practiced extreme asceticism, he didn't eat, he ate, and because that was the culture of his time, it was like, just kind of like destroy the body and, the soul or whatever.
The spirit will emerge.
Yeah, will emerge if the body's not there. However, he really went to the point of death, at least according to the teachings. And then someone saw him on the verge of death, and woman, and she offered him some rice milk, and he took it, and then he recovered. And then he realized we need to avoid these extremes. One extreme is torturing the body. The other extreme is trying to give extreme pleasure, So main principle of Buddhism is what we call the middle way or the middle path. It's between these two extremes of torture and extreme pleasure. It's just walking straight forward, and we take care of our bodies. We eat, try to not overeat, but just eat to sustain ourselves. We try to eat healthy food.
So it's not the zealous pursuit of enlightenment. It's more of a path of living.
Especially in my tradition, is we say, don't seek for enlightenment. In other words, that's just another craving. I want to get enlightened.
Who's the I that wants to be enlightened?
Right. And it's like, it doesn't work if you're striving for some kind, I'm going to get it. I want to get it. I want to get it. If as long as that I is behind there striving to get something, it doesn't happen. It's when you relinquish all your kind of your wanting to desire. When we're sitting in meditation, all we're doing is just trying to sit there. We're not seeking something. We're not trying to seek something, because if we do, we just won't find it.
So Buddhism has branches: Tibetan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. Where does Zen Buddhism come into the story, and how does Zen Buddhism distinct?
Buddhism has more expressions in schools, way more than Christianity. In Buddhism, there was never like a pope or something like that. It just branched in all different directions. First, it went outside of India to Sri Lanka, or Ceylon, as it was used to be called. And then, of course, more in the neighboring areas like Myanmar, Burma, and Thailand, and also up to Tibet, too, to the north. When a spiritual tradition moves from one culture to another culture, it needs to accept those cultural norms. You can't have the cultural norms of India work for the cultural norms of Midwestern USA.
Yeah.
So it takes on the culture of where you're born and raised, and then we try to adapt these principles into our culture. I went to Bodhgaya, India, 1980, and that's like a very sacred place of Buddhism in India. That's where the Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment.
Under the Bodhi tree.
Yeah, right. And actually, as a whole, Buddhism doesn't exist in India. It's not a common religion in India. But in Bodhgaya, because of this place, all cultures, Chinese, Japanese, Tibetan, Myanmar, Burma, and Thailand, they all have temples in this town.
Wow.
And I was very surprised. I had only studied Zen Buddhism when I went there. And I went looking around in this little tiny town. You can see every kind of culture of Buddhism that exists. It just has so many expressions.
So why Hokyoji? Like, what can you tell me about the founding of Hokyoji and the
I could tell you a lot. Katagiri Roshi wanted to build a retreat center in the countryside, away from the city environment, just to kind of calm down all the stimulation, from cars and trucks and TVs and, all that kind of stuff. He wanted to do that. He felt the land. And I think also the way the landscape is here, I think it reminded him a little bit of Japan. There's many, many little kind of mountains in Japan. It has kind of that feeling. I mean, they're not big mountains, but they're kind of big hills.
And it's called a practice community. What does that mean?
When it kind of was shifted to me as the spiritual leader, I called it Hokyoji Zen practice community, because I'm very drawn to community, just practicing together, working out conflicts together. Not so much a monastery. I didn't want a monastery. For particularly ordained people, monks go to practice formally, very strict rules and traditions. I've done that for 2 or 3 years of my life, been in a monastic setting. So we'll make it kind of more like a retreat center or a community of people, and we won't have those strict monastic rules. So
it might be a little bit friendlier to somebody who isn't all in on Buddhism.
Very much so.
If I'm interested in Buddhism, how would you recommend getting in and having an experience of what the practices can offer?
Come and do a personal retreat here and hang out with us for a few days and join our community. We sit in the morning. We do meditation in the morning. We do a short little simple service. It's not too elaborate. And then we do a little check-in. How are you doing today? It's only about 8 or 9 people. So, we just take a 30 seconds each to say how we're doing today. And then we start our day with our work day. But that might be a nice way to just get a little taste of and see the environment, see the rooms, the dining hall, and get a sense of the facilities and who the people are here, and see if it resonates with you. And then gradually you can come into, kind of build up your retreat experience. We do have something called a practice period in the winter. And it's and that goes for 3 weeks. And it's something we practice hard for 5 days. We take a couple of rest days and then we start again for 5 days, but it's not as intense as it's something you can just sustain for a long, long time.
I want to go to a Buddhist retreat. What's a reasonable expectation of what my experience would be or what I would get out of it? Am I walking away with practices? Am I walking away with like the skills to do meditation? What am I walking away with from one of the beginner retreats?
What I hope when people leave, they have an experience kind of like they haven't had before, like a sense of tranquility and interconnectedness with everything that is a little bit of an unusual experience. I'm not guaranteeing enlightenment.
That's what I'm paying for. I want my enlightenment.
Yeah, well, sorry, I can't guarantee that. I know there's a movie called Guaranteed Enlightenment, or Enlightenment Guaranteed, something like that. But we don't guarantee enlightenment here.
The pursuit of enlightenment is a funny thing. It's kind of like the donkey chasing the carrot. It's sort of provides
exactly
do the practice. Yeah. But then once you get it, you realize there was no I to have ever been enlightened to begin with.
And if there is, and then, if you say, I got enlightenment, there's something wrong with that statement because it's not something you get for yourself. My branch, also, I'm in a branch of Zen Buddhism, which is called Soto Zen. Another branch is called Rinzai Zen. With Soto Zen, we don't talk much about states. We don't do that. We don't do that with Soto Zen. We just sit. Don't expect anything and just keep sitting. We sometimes emphasize one side and then we emphasize the other side. For instance, someone might come in and say, I really want to attain enlightenment. What should I do? They might ask me that question. Well, then I would say, stop trying to attain enlightenment. But if someone's just sitting there and not doing anything, for a long, long time, I might say, maybe you need to just kind of put a little more energy into your sitting. Because even though we're sitting and not trying to attain anything, it's a very active sitting. You're very present and aware, and it's very dynamic, even though you're not trying to get something with your mind.
At the same time, you have to be able to simultaneously have the intentionality and have the
You have to have the intentionality to let go of your thinking process, because I guarantee you, almost anybody who sits down on the cushion is going to start thinking about something. And so our practice is just to observe that thinking first. Just, I'm thinking about something, and recognize that you're thinking, and then say, well, let's not do that right now. Let's just practice on not thinking.
And what do you say to people who say, I find it hard to just sit and be present? What's the guidance there?
Well, I'm the prime example. I do not think there was a worse sitter than me. I've never seen one, ever in my life, of a person who had so much difficulty sitting still when I began. Even though I began in my early 20s, I couldn't sit still. I just could not sit still. I would squirm. Maybe I'd sit still for 10 seconds. I think I drove my teacher crazy.
What do you say to somebody like that? What's the guidance?
You got to try a little more just to settle down. Make some effort there. Sit through something that's really uncomfortable. You get an uncomfortable feeling in your body, just try to sit still with it.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? The whole point is to be liberated from the discomfort, be liberated from the suffering. So squirming, adjusting, and fidgeting is a sort of escape valve.
Yeah.
And you're not really dealing with the central root of causing the need to squirm.
Right.
And sitting is kind of
You're really quite suffering quite bad when you're trying to sit and you can't sit. Your body's aching and everything. So it's really quite uncomfortable. So if anyone comes to me and says they have a problem with that, I can really identify with it. And so I'll talk to them about it.
I found that it's a bit like facing the dragon. Like the whole Bruce Lee thing is that thing, the impulse that's causing you to squirm feels like it's going to kill you. And on some level, you got to die to it. You got to let it just emerge and let that energy just happen and pass through. And when you get to the other side of it, you're like, oh, I didn't die. But
correct. That's exactly true. I mean, we go through a lot of things that are stressful, like giving our first talk, our Dharma talk or something. We might get really a little anxious if we're going to do okay or something like that. And sometimes I've given disastrous Dharma talks, but it's just like you said. Afterwards, I thought, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. Oh, but that brings me back to, reminds me of 4 things the Buddha said about our fear. We have fears in our life. One is the fear of death. One's the fear of getting sick, incapacitated, something like that. The other is fear of reputation, losing our reputation. And the other is fear of public speaking. I was really happy when I read that in the old.
The Buddha actually said that? The fear of
He actually said that. Which means, I think, it means he had to experience some kind of discomfort when he had to get up and talk. He had to know that to say it. If he never experienced that, then he wouldn't say that's a fear. So
I'd like to see the human journey for Buddha.
Yeah, me too. I would have like to know how the Buddha actually lived as a human being.
Well, listen, Dokai, I think what some of the things I'm taking away from this talk is the fact that this is a practice, that there is a religious path to Buddhism, but also it's very open and welcoming to individuals who want to learn how to live a better life, learn how to not be so reactive.
There's so many reactivity is, it's a really big thing, is reactivity. When we do this practice for quite a while, and you're right, it's a practice. We just practice forever, for our whole life. Because, well, there's a lot of stuff inside of ourselves. So all that squirming I was doing, it's about something inside of me, not outside of me. And that's what was so hard to find out. And so, but yes, it's a practice, just a continuous practice.
Great. Well, listen, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with our audience.
You're welcome.
And this video is going to be posted on YouTube and on your listing on Retreat Finder for Hokyoji Zen Practice Community. Check it out. Check out the listing. Check out the website. Hokyoji is offering a combination of personal retreats that you can go as an individual or maybe together in a small group rentals as well, and then larger events with special teachers. So great way to have a friendly introduction to Buddhism in a very sort of Western and friendly way that may not be as structured as some of the monastic environments that offer Buddhist retreats. So great alternative. But Dokai, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.